feelings on the reinventing. So this is a place under ideas and approaches and source as well as YouTube, Reinventing Tech. If you guys get notifications, happen or being those things always happen. Anytime shows that almost we have our Sundays. We have weekly and Easter right here. Have feelings with Ricardo. And on Thursday, 6 p.m. to 101. Other than that, we're always posting new interviews like Marcel and Sierra did yesterday. Check our YouTube channel. We did last rubber as today we're you for content for free. So then come by us and as to what's going on, worldwidefence.com is a company that really arts around the world. Providing network by Jamie, apprenticeship and eco-friendly.com. Person behind you guys the candidate. Go ahead and show
Good morning. How are you? I hate to tell you, but you're a little choppy.
Oh, that's okay.
Yeah, it's okay. It looks like a nice day out there. I don't know about you guys, but it's been super hot where I'm at. Ugh, it's like miserable even.
Yeah, it's been very hot recently.
Yeah. Yeah, Kyle, good morning, dude. You're acclimating to some new environment out here, huh?
Yeah, starting to get used to the Midwest now.
Yeah, man. It's wild, isn't it?
Yeah.
It's like a night and day kind of thing. I'm sure it's probably a little warmer out there in LA though, wasn't it?
You know, before, I don't know, the last time it hit 91 out there was like last summer. So it's like, oh, cool. It's almost like I didn't leave, except that now there's a lot more rain and thunderstorms.
Yeah, for sure.
You're just north of me in Ohio now, right?
Yeah, I'm in Columbus.
Awesome. Yeah. Well, we're getting like record-setting highs in Kentucky, Ohio Valley area right now. So this is not the norm.
Well, good, because I fucking hate it.
It's pretty gnarly, dude.
The rain and thunderstorms, that is normal, but the heat, no.
See, the rain and thunderstorms I can deal with. The heat, not so much.
Right.
Oh, are you completely moved in, like all settled in and unpacked?
For the most part, yeah.
All right, cool. Do you got any plants?
Plants, I have green onions sitting in my window. That's about the extent of my growing powers.
All right, I gotta send you a housewarming plant. You gotta have a plant for your own place.
I actually got a housewarming gift not too long ago.
I saw that.
Yeah.
That is gorgeous. Oh my
Yeah.
goodness. Dude,
That's
like
pretty awesome, man.
sometimes I gotta say, man, you're like half my age and I'm insanely jealous of you. I'm like, this kid has so much talent and potential. Like, what the hell?
I'm
What
just
was I
trying my
doing
best.
when I was your age? I was so worthless.
Well, see, life hit me in the face at like 18, 19, so I got a head start there.
Yeah,
Yeah.
life took me a few years to kick me in the face.
I think it's funny that we talk about that because like I think it had been kicking me in the face this whole time, and I just kept ignoring it. I kept ignoring it, and be like, "It's fine. It's just the way it is. It's no big deal." Blah 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 blah. Excuses, excuses, excuses. And then finally, I'm like 45. I'm like, "Yeah, it's about time."
Yeah, dude, I think I had my like big realization that I need to, grow the fuck up and get shit together and actually think about what I'm doing. 2 weeks after my 30th birthday, when I realized that I had been mostly blacked out for over a decade, I was like, all right, I need to quit drinking. And then after that, everything fell into place.
Yeah, you know what? That's a good thing that you said that. It does take a little while for you to kind of like recognize what it is that's like bothering you. You know what I mean? What it is that's holding you back and stuff like that. It is substance and stuff like that for sure, but it's also like the way that we accept it. You know what I mean? Just being responsible about it and like taking ownership over it too, and being like, yeah, this just isn't for me. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I think a big part of growing up is learning how to take accountability for your own actions. And that is
Yep.
so hard to do because it's so easy to place blame on everything else. Like,
Mhm.
oh, well, the tattoo I did today wasn't my best because I didn't get that much sleep last night. Instead of taking accountability for, I stayed up partying with some friends when I should have like gotten to bed early because I had a 11 a.m. appointment and,
Yep.
things like that. I've been learning some hard accountability lessons as a tatter tot in the industry. Whew.
That's really radical, man. Oh, thanks for sharing that with us because that's exactly the case. I mean, that's kind of like what I tried to talk about here quite a bit. You know what I mean? As my own experiences in that same way. So it's awesome that you're opening up and sharing with us stuff like that because it's at some point in time, you're right. You got to just kind of say, all right, dude, I'm done. I'm done messing around. I'm ready to like evolve into this next step. And the only thing that's going to make it happen is me saying I'm ready to do it and then actually follow through with it, you know? And it's hard like not to get frustrated sometimes when it doesn't happen when you want it to, you know? Like, dude, sometimes it's just like, come on, man, let's get this going.
Yeah. But it's also super important to realize that being a person is a constant learning experience. And none of us are ever going to have it right on the first go. So we have to not only take accountability, but also we got to learn to forgive ourselves because we're going to keep making mistakes and not be too hard on yourself. Because when you're too hard on yourself, you impede yourself from being able to move forward.
Yeah. Entirely. You have to accept the fact that you're human, right?
Mm-hmm.
That human experience, man, that human condition, dude, it's crazy. It's wild.
It takes practice. It takes practice and nobody's an expert.
No, not at all. Not even a little bit. Oh, man. Well, on that note, let's say good morning to everybody else too. Hello, Medusa. Nice to see you. Thanks for joining us. I know it's super early out there on your coast right now, so thank you for jumping in with us today.
Yep.
And Kyle is up with us too. He's painting away, killing it.
Thank you.
Yep. And we also have Josh. Good morning, Josh.
Good morning.
Thanks for jumping in, man.
No problem. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, dude. We got some people in the chats as well. We have Jason Leeser saying hello. Sorry, guys, couldn't make it this morning. Busy tattoo life, which is a good thing to hear. So good for you, man.
Yeah,
James
Jason.
Wisdom.
Get it, Jason.
Yep. James Wisdom. Hello. Good morning, sir. Killing it on your Monday mornings. Thank you for contributing to the community and to everybody else that wants to join in and everything like that. If you guys get a chance, check it out. a lot of good tips and a lot of good information on his process and his methodology as far as his artwork goes and things like that, and trying to share what he knows. So that's awesome. Thank you very much, sir. Yeah, so it looks like that's it for the chat room right now. This morning, we have a friend of mine and a coworker, Steve McClintock, that's going to be joining us. We're talking about our age and we're talking about our experiences and stuff like that. And earlier, before we went live, we were talking about like our kids and the differences and what we have set up at our tattoo shops and stuff like that. I know Josh has a pretty cool spot for his kids to hang out in their own little area in the tattoo shop when he gets real busy with his family and stuff like that. Still has an opportunity to hang out with them, so that's awesome. Same thing with Steve this morning. He's running behind. He's got his son that he had to drop off at school and stuff like that. So bear with us. We're all humans trying to do the human stuff and still like hang out, right? So it's pretty cool. But I am in the shop today. It's a pretty cool space. I've been working on this little painting for a little while now, and I've gotten a little bit more layering done on it. I'll show it to you guys real quick.
That's gorgeous.
Thank you.
Nice.
Very nice, as always. Killing it.
Thank you. It's still kind of blocky, and there's still some smooth transitions that I need to kind of start blending in, get some of the work done on the hair. I'm starting to go in with this like greenish ochre right now and start layering on top of these reds and stuff like that, so we can get that nice transition from that green into the bridges of the tonal value of the hues and stuff like that. So we're working on that for a little while until Steve comes in. And just ask you guys how y'all have been. Have y'all been working on any big projects or anything lately? You guys excited about anything coming up in your schedule?
I got something to share.
Yeah, let's check it out.
So I've already printed out the stencils and everything, and I got a rough gray line started on it the other day. But I'm going to be starting, well, I guess I technically already started my first, I guess, half leg sleeve.
All right.
Yeah,
Nice.
so this was for the beginning. It's a horse skeleton with oversized daffodils. And we're going to do a
radical.
blackout background and a very light shading, stipple shading for this stuff. And on the other side of the leg, we've got a couple of bird skulls and some magnolias. And in between, there's going to be filigree fillers that will be a negative space because we're doing a blackout background. So the filigree won't have any detail or shading. It'll just be like that silhouette, but negative space.
That's so sweet.
And I am so excited about it. I am pumped.
That's cool.
Awesome.
That's cool. So with the blackout background, is that just preferential like at this point, or are you guys working on covering something up? Like, is it the client's choice to do that, or is it
It's
yours?
client's
Did you talk about it?
choice.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
That part is a little nerve-wracking because I haven't done a blackout background before. But I've been talking to several artists, and I've got a couple of ideas and tricks up my sleeve that I'm going to try to pull to make it like really cohesive and elegant without being too much or overwhelming, the project.
Yeah. Right. Like you don't want it to take away from the subject matter is what you mean?
Yeah.
Right. Yeah, because that can distract quite a bit, can't it? Like it could.
Yeah.
It has the opportunity to do that. Yeah. Okay, I see what you're
Yeah, I got to be really careful where I map out the hard black areas and the pits and stuff so that it's not overwhelming, not distracting. And she doesn't look like she just has a couple of stamps on top of a black leg.
Right, exactly.
So
But a lot of times it sounds like you can probably take some of the black and like turn it into some of the shapes of the flowers and stuff like that. That would kind of bleed into the foreground ones, right?
yeah, that's what I'm thinking. I'm thinking
Yep.
of giving it some almost like foggy layers.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's awesome. So you've never done a project this big with that type of approach, like with the blackout stuff?
No, my biggest project so far was a back piece that I started on a friend of mine who I definitely did not feel like I had earned a place to do a back piece, but she insisted that I'm the only one that she wanted to do it. But
That's
it's
awesome.
definitely not, for being a back piece, it's not as involved as this half leg sleeve is. So
That's really cool though. I mean, either way, like it's really radical that you have friends of yours that are willing to kind of like, I mean, first of all, they want the tattoo from you, you know what I mean? So that's cool as hell. But like to be able to kind of help push you along in your direction. You know,
yeah,
that's awesome.
yeah,
That's pretty awesome.
I'm grateful, a little nervous, a lot of
Of
nervous,
course.
but grateful for the opportunity and appreciative for my friends for having the trust in me.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, it's cool that you can, I mean, it's good that you're a little nervous. That means that you're willing to put some effort into it, you know?
Hell
So,
yeah.
yeah, dude.
I think
What
it'll
about
go
you
well
guys?
for you.
I think so too. I
Huh?
think it's gonna be okay.
Yeah. Man.
You're like, well, yeah,
Well,
yeah.
we'll see what happens.
We'll see. We'll see.
If anything, I'll just black out the whole leg and be like, you know what? Blackout tattoos are trendy.
Yeah. Yeah, no, I doubt you'll have to do that. You're gonna be okay, man. That's cool. What about you, Josh? You have anything going on these days?
Yeah.
No.
Sorry, I was muted. Had to get back to the Zooms.
Okay.
I recently finished up the Hazers Portrait.
Oh, nice.
That one was fun. Real quick. Here we go. Switch to the screen. There we go. There we go. The Hazers Portrait turned out pretty well. So this is a shot that I just grabbed with my cell phone right after the tattoo. That the quality of the photo ended up being better than what I got with my DSLR. So I was like, all
Isn't
right.
that funny?
Well, it's nice and bloody, but what can you do?
Yeah, that looks pretty cool, man.
Yeah, I'm digging it.
Thank you.
Yeah, dude, I dig it. You can tell that you just worked on some of the lighter tones and stuff like that recently too.
Yeah. Well, I'd managed to render almost all the way up to the eyes in the first session, and then the rest was just gray lined in. So I went in and finished with some lighter tones, some darker tones, did the whole top half of the head and the sort of Nouveau mandala in the background in session number 2.
Cool.
Oh.
Do you work a lot with black and gray tattoos, or do you do a mix of color and black and gray, or?
Yeah, I usually try to stay in black and gray just because I hate how many towels I go through whenever I'm doing color.
Yeah, I feel you there, man.
Killed a tree with purple. Yay.
Yeah, that some of that concentrate purple was like, oof, that stuff does not want to wipe away at all. No, it looks great, dude.
Thanks, sir.
Yeah. Are you pre-mixing? Are you using pre-washes, or are you using like, do you mix your own washes?
So I use a pre-mixed medium eternal.
Yeah.
That's the only wash that I use. The rest is just black and dipping into my rinse cup.
Yeah, yeah. That's the way I learned too, man. I was like, okay, so you hold your machine, you hold the tip in the water for X amount of time to get this kind of wash. Yeah.
Yeah, same. Well, for me, it was always, because we have a hard time counting consistently and accurately. So for me, it was always, you dip once for like an 80, you dip twice, like dip. So it's
Yep,
still not
exactly.
super accurate, but you take the seconds out of it, and you're just like, all right. So I'm going for my 4 dip wash now. It's just 1. All right,
Yeah.
there you go.
Yeah, man, that's crazy. That's awesome though. Are you a big fan of large mags? Do you like to use round shaders, or what do you do with like some of those shapes that you're making with that dynamic lighting?
So typically I gray line it first. So
Mhm.
so whenever I'm establishing the value pattern, I want to go for my shadow shapes, and I'll actually outline my shadow shapes with a super light wash. And then I'll go in for that. It was all stipple shading actually, except for the background. That background mandala, I did a 23 standard curve, so 1223 curve, not a bug pin. But I have used up to a 27 curve mag with bug pins, which is the same as a 23 standard.
Gotcha. It's interesting, man, because a lot of times, like for all my black and gray, I like to use a lot of long tapers. You know what I mean? I do see some benefits of the bug pins, like as far as packing in some of those darker, large fields and such. You know what I mean? But for the blending and like that more even kind of disbursement of saturation, I like to try to like go with those long tapers, man. Seems to work out pretty well. It seems to heal pretty well too. You know what I mean? And as bad as this might sound, the layering process is a little bit more cooperative that way too.
Yeah, a little less trauma.
Right. Yeah, it's fun. And then I do the same thing with my color too. You know what I mean? Like a lot of people like the bug pins for the color, like just pack it in there, dude. But I like that layering kind of process, you know?
I don't know. I've never had a whole lot of luck with bug pins in color.
Yeah.
It's like the pigment's too thick for the bug pen to really deliver on the color. Right.
Yeah. I remember Icon, let's see, about 10, 15 years ago, I used to order, all the loose needles and make my own needles and stuff like that, man. And they had these very blunt tapered pins for a little while. And I tried them out, and it's nothing against Icon. I think it's just the actual pen itself. You know what I mean? Instead of it being like, it's just a very, very distinct, direct angle on the tip of that pen. You know what I mean? It's like punching a nail in the skin sometimes, dude. It's just like boom, boom, boom. And I was like, man, this would be great for traditional. I didn't see the benefit of it, that's for sure. And neither did my client's skin. You know what I mean? Yeah. So I was like, let's turn this up to 11. We got some comments in the chats. James, you're very welcome, sir. Creatures Cave said good morning, and Medusa, it's really nice work that you have going on there.
Oh, thank you.
Yep, Creatures Cave. I like the name. It's pretty fun.
That is cool.
Yep. But yeah, let's see. We'll get this camera set up a little bit more because my buddy will be coming in here in a little bit. So he's just running behind. But,
I had a question for the old schoolers.
Okay.
I
think that's me.
I know it's not me.
Anybody who's been tattooing more than like 15 years ish, well, I mean, technically, I guess the question I have is for the people who've been tattooing for like 30 to 40 years, but what thickness of acetate should I use to make an acetate stencil?
That's a tricky one. What are you gonna be using to trace the design on it? Are you gonna be using like a Dremel of some sort, or are you gonna be using like a razor or an X-Acto knife?
My boss is gonna, I think I'm actually using like a tattoo needle carved down. Well, I mean, I'm doing practice with a Dremel, but I think when I actually make the original one, my boss wants me to do it the way that she was taught. which is like, I guess her boss had her file down a needle and
Yeah.
just carve it
Scratch.
slowly by hand.
Yeah, just scratch it out.
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
And I
Yep.
give myself an acetate stencil tattoo and learn how to sweat. Hold my breath.
Yeah. Yeah. Hold your breath and then don't wipe. You're dabbing the whole time too. You know what I mean? Like I remember always seeing the old school guys and they would just wrap the paper towel around like a couple fingers at the bottom of their hand. You know what I mean? Because they're literally just kind of like dabbing and like rolling as they went to try to stay away from the rest of that because it would just blow right off.
That's how I already do it when I'm doing line work or gray lines anyways, because I have a habit of wiping off stencils regardless. So
yeah.
luckily
Yeah,
that's
I do
already
that
a
too.
habit.
That's good. I do that too, and I've been trying to practice. Keeping my hand off of the stencil much more, like wiping over, like dabbing it as you're aligning it and stuff like that too. So I've had that happen where it's like, okay, time to bust out the pen. Got to redraw the rest of this design on there.
It's just like, it's okay. I got it. I
Yeah,
drew it
it's
the
okay,
first
dude.
time. I can draw it the second time.
Yeah, exactly. Just you got an extra like hour, 3 hours or so. Yeah, that's awesome, Mr. McClintock.
Good day.
Come on over, man. Get situated and come on over. Okay. Yeah, as far as the millimeter goes, though, Melissa, I don't know. I mean, I think I would kind of have more of a textural feel to it, like where it's pretty thick. Like that one looked pretty thin to me. You know what I mean? It's almost like a cardboard tension to the acetate that I've seen used for those kinds of stencils. You know what I mean? So I would assume that it's kind of thicker. It's kind of a little bit thicker.
Yeah,
Than what you have there.
I read online when I was balls deep in some forum at like 3 a.m. that it was like 0.2 millimeters thickness. So I got a couple of sheets of acetate with that, but now, yeah, you're right. It's kind of flimsy.
It just
I think
seems
when
like
I carve this, it'll just go straight through.
it feels like it would. You know what I mean? Like that's the thing. Like there's we have a Mike Malone acetate stencil on a frame over here, and you can. I mean, just from the ones that I remember being around, and then like you could wave it and you could hear it like like it's real thick, like hit the air even like a fan. That one seems a little bit too flimsy. I think I would go just a little bit thicker and see how you feel about it.
Yeah. Good idea.
All right. Yeah. I mean, you might as well just practice. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Okay, everybody. Let me get this mic going here. So we have now.
Did we lose Ricardo?
Yeah, I think we lost Ricardo for a moment.
Thought it was me. Whew. Not this time.
Not this.
Well, until Ricardo gets back, what are you guys working on? Kyle, the painter.
Sure, I'll show off what I've got going.
Hell yeah.
I made a little lava rock painting recently, so I'm just starting a new one here to go with it.
Oh, that is. I don't know what that is.
Yeah, let me.
The first layers.
Yeah, let me grab the one off the wall. That's a little more complete.
Oh, okay. Yeah, it's like building a house. It doesn't look like a house when it's just the foundation. Give it a second to show up.
Yeah.
Oh, I see Ricardo back.
Oh, yeah. Oh, that is sick. That is really cool.
Thank you. Yeah, so I'm
I
just
think,
trying to
did you post that on Instagram recently?
Yeah, like yesterday or the day before. So I'm making another one to go just directly below it.
Fucking sick, dude. Nice series.
Thank you.
Welcome back, Ricardo.
Huzzah.
Yeah, I still can't hear you, man. At least you're moving now, so that's good.
Good old moving Ricardo.
Turns out no friends allowed. So it just messes everything up. Is that gonna say self-made?
Yes, yes, it is.
Self
I got some imagery in my head.
self-mad. I
Well,
like that.
Well, no, I'm gonna do self-made with like an outfit now. Not MADE, but MAID. Yeah. Like a fucking feather duster in there and shit.
Okay.
Nice.
I'll cross between the
Nice.
two.
I dig it. I passed out my very last business card today, so I got to work on that.
Nice. Congrats on that.
Thanks. That's the business cards is the plural of business card. You gotta like one person will contact you for every 100 cards you pass out. So if I want to get 10 clients, I should make 1,000 cards, right?
In theory.
Yeah, that's the math.
If you're lucky, you might get 11 or 12.
Yeah. Fingers
So-
crossed.
From a business perspective, though, your most valuable clients are your existing clients. So you'd probably actually have better luck trying to get the people you've already tattooed to come back in for more.
Dude, my clients, I am just frothing with gratitude, y'all. Like the last few months have been super humbling. My clients have really showed up. Like a lot of them found out about my dog passing away. And suddenly just people are coming into my work and dropping off presents and cards and being really, really thoughtful. And I didn't know that I had impacted their lives enough where they had cared about me personally until that happened. And I got cool clients, y'all. My clients are super sweet. I love them.
So actually, that's a good thought exercise that I've put all of the lovely ladies through in my shop is like it might just be another day of work for you, but every time someone walks through that door and sits down in your chair, they're walking out a completely new person because they're not the same as when they walked in. It's wild. It's wild.
Yeah, like that infinity symbol you did on the mother-daughter duo might just be another infinity symbol to a tattoo artist, but to them, like it means something. It was their bonding experience coming into the tattoo shop together. They made like a date of going there and getting their matching infinity symbols. They had a great day and they're going to remember that. And yeah, you're right. Even if it's not just another day of work for you, it's to keep in mind it's so important to the clients.
Hey, this is a good time for me to hop in because then they also recommend you, right? Or if their friend is there and you're nice while you're doing faith upside down on the wrist. And I've seen it happen a million times that someone that's connected with them is getting a sleeve within a week or two. As opposed to somebody who's doing it reluctantly. Faith, sure, I'll do it, but it's upside down, you know. If you still show them a good time, you got to give them the best advice, you know. But I also just real quick want to hop in the business cards. I think you're going to get a return rate more on business cards because it depends on where they go. If you're giving them to your clients to refer you, so if everyone's leaving with a stack of 10 business cards, you know, those are your clients passing out your business cards to people they're recommending you to. Way more of a return, I would propose. You know, if you're putting stacks out at the coffee shops and the gyms or the bars or wherever, I think you're probably a little bit more right with whatever it was 1%, 2%. But yeah, I wouldn't do any less than 1,000 business cards. I get rid of them as soon as you can.
Yeah, I've been learning that the clients that are like coming back for more, like a lot of them are asking for more business
Yes.
cards to pass out to
Uh-huh.
their friends, and it is
Yep.
so flattering. And
Yeah,
I don't know if you guys remember from Paradise BYOB, I make my business cards by slapping address labels on playing cards.
Have fun.
And so a lot of people really like those.
Yeah, and I haven't seen anything similar in my stack of business cards I've collected.
Oh, you collect business cards?
A little bit, yeah.
Ah, cute. I tried doing that and then I had too many. So I just like, all right, I'm following everybody on Instagram and I need to get rid of this box of cards.
See, I don't have a lot right now, so they're just kind of sitting in a box.
Yeah.
But when I decide to make more business cards, I can look at them and see what I want to do with mine.
Oh my God. I forgot his name, but he runs the tattoo museum in Idaho.
Jay Brown, right?
Yes. Yes. He collects business cards.
Oh yeah,
tattoo business cards.
Yeah, I was doing a walkthrough of his museum with him at Hell City, and he had a whole binder full of them.
Yeah.
Yeah, that
He's
was cool.
so sweet. He's so nice.
You know, here's the other reason why I wanted to zoom in. When you were asking about the acetates, he's the perfect person to ask.
You know what? I don't know why I didn't think of that. I should hit him up.
He also, I don't know if you had, there's a course on the Reinventing platform. If you go through the website, the history of electric tattooing. There's a full chapter there on acetates. And Jay Brown is authoring, you know, the majority of all those articles at this point and all the
Oh,
all the
yeah,
chapters and
yeah.
stuff. So that's another spot. I don't know if it specifically goes into the answer to your question, but it's a whole history of, you know, the acetates from a historian.
Yeah, dude, Jay is super sweet and so nice. It turns out that my boss, who's also like my mentor, and him are, you know how like there's kind of like the tattoo family tree
Sure.
where like mentors and then their apprentices and everything. They are I guess in a tattoo family tree wise, they're like pretty close tattoo cousins.
Nice.
And we only found that out at the recent convention when they ran into each other and were talking about people they know and realized they had like the same mentors or something like that, or the same mentors come from the same shop or something. But that was cool. Small world.
Yeah, very cool.
Even smaller back.
And here's Ricardo back.
Are you there?
I think we're actually back now. Can you guys hear us?
Yeah.
Hell yeah.
All right, cool. All right. We're here.
Made it.
Sometimes it takes a little.
Yay.
Let me adjust this camera just a little bit here. Hopefully we don't mess things up while I'm just making a change. All right, everybody. Say hello to Steve McClintock.
Hi, everybody.
Steve McClintock.
Hey, dude.
How's it going? It's interesting.
Hey.
So Steve is a co-worker of mine and a good friend that I met in 2001.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah,
Yeah.
been a while.
You want to walk everybody through how we kind of met? So tell us about how we met.
Well, we met like one of his friends that was working with him, Chris Goff, who works with us, was standing out front of a tattoo shop, and I started talking to him. And then Chris was like, you know, we were talking about music and punk rock culture and stuff. And then he was like, oh, I got to go to work. I'm like, well, where do you work? He's like, oh, I tattoo at Artcore Tattoo. And I was like, oh, I tattoo as well. And then I walked into the shop. Ricky was sitting in there, and I was like, hey, what's up, man? And then he thought I was friends with Chris for a long time. I had just met him. And then 2 weeks later, we're all working together.
Yeah, it wasn't you just walking in saying what's up. It was more like, what up, what up, what up?
Yeah, a little bit more energy to it, I guess. Yeah.
So we've been working together since 2001 on and off, right? There was a little hiatus where we split ways for a second.
Yeah,
You know what I
but
mean?
what, like 6 years,
Yeah,
5
about
years.
6 years where I
5 or
started
6.
my own shop and
Yeah.
everything like that.
Went off. He had those little growth time on his own, but he came back. He
back in the
back
fold.
in the fold where he got the band back together. You know,
Yeah.
it's more official now.
Yeah. So tell everybody how long you've been tattooing.
I started tattooing in 1997.
What got you interested in tattoos?
I was really big into graffiti culture. I had grown up in the south side of Chicago suburbs, and I was just really big into like skateboarding and punk rock. And then it kind of, when I was like 14, got into graffiti writing. So, and then that kind of transpired into meeting people that were in the tattoo culture. And we had a family friend that had a tattoo shop, and that was a real deal, you know, like biker Hells Angels type of tattoo shop in Chicago. So that was like my initial introduction to tattooing, was just the whole biker side of tattoo art.
Mm-hmm. That was pretty prevalent kind of environment at that time too, though.
Yeah, I think like the 4 shops that were around definitely were all like biker style artists.
Yeah.
And I had grown up with Roy Boy too. Like me
Yeah.
and his kids had went to school together and we skateboarded together. So like on the weekends, go up to Gary, Indiana, see some tigers, and you know, his mom was Jeannie, and you know, they had like a bear cage in front of their yard. You know, it was unique, you know, and you're like 13, 14, and you're not even thinking about the fact that these people have tigers and you're hanging out with like Hells Angels, you know. It was just like, oh, this is just what we were doing in the 90s.
Yeah.
So it was a very interesting introduction. It's nothing like what the tattoo industry is like now, or the shop that we're in, or so it's interesting to watch the change over the last 24 years.
Yeah, for sure.
So
yeah, I definitely want to come back to that, like as far as where we've come from and then where we're at now. Okay.
Yeah.
I'll definitely want to come back to that, but I want to talk a little bit more about like you getting into tattooing, and you actually came down to Bloomington Normal area to become an art teacher.
yep, I was gonna go to school to teach art, and at that point, like the tattoo apprenticeship that I had received really wasn't that great. I really wouldn't put myself as a great tattooer, more kind of in the borderline scratcher category at that time. And I was like, well, I'm gonna teach art and then go back to Chicago and work in the inner city. And then I, you know, hooked up with Ricky and Chris, and that kind of, the momentum that was in that shop, it was not a biker shop anymore. It was more like these guys were making art and creating all the time. So once I started kind of like doing that, school kind of became like my side project, and tattooing became my full-time life.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, so it was like I was going to college, and like Ricky was helping me get my art projects done because we were tattooing all week. You know, I was hiring girls in my classes to type my papers because I was at the shop all week.
Yeah.
So it just, school just kind of became like this side project.
Yeah. So you definitely saw and found like this like deeper passion for it rather than where you had been before, because it sounded like you were kind of in and out of that whole environment for a little while with Roy Boys and stuff like that and all those other tattoo artists up there, but it's nothing that you delved into as much as you did at that time.
No, at that time too, I was also in the Carpenters Union. I was out of Chicago, so I was working carpentry, tattooing at night, and it was just you know, at first I didn't really think I could make the money that I would need to make to survive as a tattoo artist. You know, it wasn't the shop I worked at, it was always busy, but it was just, I don't know, it just seemed that I could make more money doing something else. I didn't believe that tattooing was gonna pay for my lifestyle.
Yeah.
So
you were thinking realistically, because would you say that some of that comes from your background as like a child growing up and stuff like that, like knowing that there just has to be something that you have to take care of
yeah,
as far as your own way?
well, I grew up in a construction family. You know, my stepfather ran a construction company, and I was supposed to definitely pick a trade, work hard, and then like own a company one day, or, you know, follow that route. And then when I told my family that I was going to go to art college, they were like, "Are you kidding me right now?" They're like, "You're in the union, you know, you got a 401k, you have health insurance, and you're going to go tattoo and go to school." And I was like, "Yeah, I guess I am."
Yeah.
So, but there was a change of events, you know, like my best friend at the time, he had died. So it was just like, anything that I was looking for that was maybe more concrete really didn't matter anymore, because your mind was so out of place with dealing with that death. So you just kind of wanted to run with it and be like, well, you know, if I'm not happy framing walls all day or being around a bunch of, you know, drunk Irish, you know, carpenters all day yelling at you and borderline wanting to beat you up. So I don't know. And then at nighttime you work in this weird tattoo shop. So it was, I don't know, it was just a really weird time, you know. But I guess when you look back on it, you know, you didn't realize how weird it was until you start talking about it later on in life.
It's interesting that you bring that up, man. And I know that's one of the things that you and I connected on right away when we first met each other, was like, you know, tragedies in our life and stuff like that. You know, especially losing friends of ours at such a young age too, and in violent ways. Right? Yeah,
it was very vicious.
Yeah. So like, we were just talking about that earlier today, as far as recognizing things that you need to change in your life. You know what I mean? And that was one of the things that I think that you and I clicked on pretty immediately, was that kind of an experience that not a lot of people have in their life.
Yeah, and it was interesting because my stepfather at 12, I was working in Gary, Indiana with a bunch of murderers and convicts. You know, my stepfather was, you know, in Italian organized groups and you know, yeah, it was just different, you know, like when your uncles, you know, are wearing suits and carrying guns, you know, but they're not even your uncles.
Yeah,
you know, you're just like
brought into that family.
Yeah, I was brought into it, but once again, I was so young where it didn't seem out of place.
Right, it was the norm.
Yeah, it was the norm, you know, like you make these new friends and like their dads are in it too, and then like their dad's in prison for 7 years, and you're like, well, where's your dad at? Oh, he's on vacation. I'm like, we got the house to ourselves, you know, and we're like 12, 13.
Yeah.
So
there's all kinds of things that you could have and possibly could have been into at some point in time.
Yeah, like I did get it into the marijuana world pretty heavily, you know, and that went well for a while until it didn't. And, and that was very expensive to buy your way out of. Yeah, you know, and it was, but at that time, like marijuana was like, it was like Al Capone and Prohibition, you know, and now it's like everyone's smoking weed and having fun.
Yeah.
I'm like, you guys have no clue what it was like back in like 97, 96. You can go to jail for 10 years for having 3 pounds.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's, I don't know, everything's evolving, even that world.
Yeah.
So, but yes, the childhood and the tragedies and the violence and everything, like the neighborhood I grew up in was violent, and I had lived in Chicago Heights, and my block was Italian that I lived on. And then after that, it was all Mexican for like 6 blocks. And then after that, it was just completely dominated, you know, predominantly African-American. And so I hung out with all these Mexican gangsters and got into, you know, their culture as well. So I was always fascinated with like lowrider culture, you know, prison style tattoo culture, Mexican gang culture. So I don't know, it was just all these cultures at once at a young age, and a lot of it was predominantly pretty violent.
Yeah,
but the art was always amazing, you know. It seemed like the music, the art, but the violence end of it, but it didn't even seem like too out of line because that's all you really knew. So
that's funny because like as a tattoo artist since 1997, you said, right? 97. We get asked the same question all the time, like, you know, what got you into tattooing, all that stuff like that. You know what I mean? But like, it's very few people that you actually get the chance to actually really go in depth with them.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Because like, there's a general kind of like, sometimes to keep things going.
Yeah.
But I'm glad that you can like share that with us and stuff like that too, because I've always found your past pretty interesting for sure, man. And I think that it's a lender to like where we're at as far as the work ethic and things like that go on in tattooing.
Yeah,
running a shop and things like that, and gathering a bunch of like, you know, screwball idea headed people and just like trying to gather them up in a little corral. You know?
Yeah,
like it can be pretty difficult sometimes.
Yeah, and it is, and I think over the years, you know, like when I was running ArtCore 15 years, it was like trying to run it more like a business, like being like, everyone's got to be here on time. We're all going to work these days.
Yeah.
And now I just kind of call the shop's like a free range tattoo shop. Everyone is cage free. They do what they want. You know, so it's just as long as you show up for your appointments, you get to do whatever.
Yeah.
But back in the 90s, if you weren't there at this time and you weren't, you know, your boss would probably threaten you, you know, he'd be like, and so, but the work ethic, I think, from coming up in that time period, I would say is a lot different than a lot of the younger generation. You know, I see like all these kids posting like books closed and all this other stuff. And I'm like, and then I see what they're producing and I'm like, I could probably have done that. What you do in a week, I could probably get done in 2-3 days,
Mhm.
you know, because they just want to, I'm not really too sure, but I don't think that the work ethic is anywhere as strong as like somebody that's in here, you know, these set days for 8 hours a day,
Yep.
grinding away.
Yeah.
You know, everyone's kind of like lollygagging. They book their appointment for 1 and don't start tattooing until 3 or 4. You know, so I think that I think everything is a lot more relaxed.
Mhm.
You know, and being the fact that the shops aren't run by people like that anymore, you know, it's allowed those liberties. The facts that you have kids that have only been tattooing for 3 years having their own shops and then bringing more people in. So we've just completely changed like the original setting of it compared to today.
Yeah.
But a lot of kids also weren't brought up working construction at 12 and getting like this hardcore work ethic.
Yeah.
So I think a lot of my work ethic definitely comes from like how my stepdad made me work all summer. You know, he was like, you're not going to sit around all day and irritate your mom all summer. He was like, you're going to work. And he was like, and if you want to keep screwing up in life, this is what it looks like.
Yeah. Yeah.
So yeah, like, and I was in Gary every summer and it was during like the biggest part of the crack epidemic for Gary, Indiana. And it was insane there. It was just like a battlefield.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah. So you had to do something to kind of get yourself a little bit more linear and like in a positive future for yourself rather than that too.
yeah, I think out of like a lot of my friends that I grew up with, a lot of them are dead. And I think I was always like, regardless of whatever bad things we were doing, I always knew right from wrong.
Yeah.
And I never allowed myself to get like into hard drugs like heroin or the opioids.
Mhm.
And I think that really separated me from a lot of my friends too, because a lot of them went down that path.
Yeah.
And
Yeah, very few of us can say that we've crossed that razor's edge, right? Like,
Yeah.
where it's like you've gone over that thin little line and you've come back.
yeah, like,
Very few of us. Yeah.
because a lot of my friends started shooting heroin at like 15. You know, we were all like into skateboarding. So that was like after that movie Train Spotting came out, like all the kids in the neighborhood thought it was cool to shoot heroin. And I was like, and I was watching all my friends just drool on themselves. I was
Yeah.
like, I'm like, that does not look cool.
No, it doesn't. Yeah. No.
And
It
after,
never appealed to me.
yeah. And after being in Gary for all those summers, like I saw what drugs did to communities and, you know, people. And I was just like, whoa, I'm like, I'll just stick with the weed.
Yeah.
You know?
So okay, so let's change gears a little bit and like talk about like the tattooing thing, right? So for me, from my experience, it always seemed natural that there was an art form kind of involved with tattooing.
Correct.
I think that when we started coming into the game, there was very few people that were starting to think that in that aspect, in that
Yeah.
ratio, in that way of approaching tattooing. How old were you whenever you first picked up the Reinventing the Tattoo book?
I bought the binder, the Trapper Keeper back in the day. You
Yeah.
know, right when it first came out, I
Yeah.
had it. You know,
Yeah.
I still have the copy here.
Yeah, I got it. We got a sign for it too.
Yep.
Yeah.
So, you know, I knew who Guy Etchison was, and my first like really big like tattoo convention I went to was the Tattoo the World.
Yeah.
So I got to meet Philip Blue. I got to meet Aaron Bell. You know, Guy Etchison. You know, Bob Tyrell. You know, and like,
Paul
and I was,
Booth.
yeah, Paul Booth was there.
Yeah.
And it was just interesting, like, you know, kind of seeing some of these people in tattoo magazines or kind of hearing the names. And then all of a sudden, like, you're able to walk around and see all these portfolios. And like, you're like, wow, I didn't even know tattoos could really look like this.
Yeah.
You know, we didn't really, the internet just started, you know, and you know how long it took on dial up to even look
Yeah.
at anything.
Yeah. Like
So-
little bits of line at the same time, right? The whole time.
But that initial, that first convention I went to, it was pretty, I don't know, it was a game changer. It was like,
Uh-huh.
whoa, this is real.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's so crazy to hear it said like that, man. You know what I mean? Like when the internet was first starting up, like it's a very true thing. You're like, it's such a common place now to me, even that I forget that was the case. You know what I mean? Like we picked up on our tattoos and we saw tattooing through magazines mostly.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And like it was all publication.
Yep.
You know what I mean? So it was like when you had the opportunity to meet these people in person, actually see those tattoos happening in person, way different.
Yeah.
And I think it's still true, even though we do have all this access to like people's lives, quote unquote, you know, as far as like the social media aspect goes and stuff like that too.
Yeah, I think that's been. I remember when Tattoo Artist magazine first came out, and I would get that thing right when it first came out, you know, and watch the little DVD, CD that would come with it.
Yeah.
You know, and it was just like, I think that was like where I started really getting more interactive with it. And I started buying like books and stuff like that, like early on. Like I was buying like Grimey's book and watching like what Grimey was doing. And you know, I remember when the Philip Lew's Dragons book first came out. Like I've got the first pressing. I think I've got number 58 of that collection.
It's awesome.
Yeah, but it was just like, you know, I remember like even like getting my first tattoo kit like in 97. Like I literally cut out the kit for the Spalding Supreme kit. I cut it out of a thing and got a money order and mailed it off. And then 3 weeks later, I'm a tattooer with a certificate and a t-shirt, you know.
Don't forget that little necklace too.
Oh yeah, the necklace, you know, it was amazing, you know, everything you needed. And
yeah,
it was just, but like, yeah, with the internet now, it's just like,
yeah,
that's why you see these kids like, you know, it's like I've been tattooing for 24 years. This kid's been tattooing for 3 and he's like crushing everybody. And you're just like, man, I didn't even like realize that would be a possible thing to do that quickly.
I agree.
But I think too, like, it's great that like everything on the internet with your art, you could, you know, talk to people about needles, machines, what inks they're using. You know, back in the day, that wasn't, you didn't ask other tattooers what they were using. They would have just been like, you kidding me? You're really gonna ask me this?
Yeah.
So
yeah, it was very much more closed net kind of community at that time.
Yeah,
I think that's one of the cool things that I've been telling you about this for a little while now. Is like this community seems like that's the case. Is that we're trying to share, we're trying to grow a little bit more. You know what I mean? And
yeah.
I think one of the most important parts is the experiences that we have that we can share with each other. So that's why I was really excited to get you on here today and talk. I've been trying to get you on here for a little while.
Yeah, I know. I'm always tattooing.
You tattoo nonstop. Man.
Yeah. I'm pretty much almost 6 days a week.
Yeah. Well, you're working on a lot of large pieces too. Yeah. Like, okay, let's go into where you came from to where you're at now.
Yeah.
All right. Let's talk about like the style of art that you're into at first. When you first got into tattooing, what was your drive? Like, what was it that you saw that you're like, I want to make that tattoo?
I remember when I first got in, like, I remember being in the shop and seeing like the old like Huck Spalding flash and everything. And then I remember right when the Paul Booth set came out with the Leaf Man.
Oh yeah.
And the skull like barbed wire band set. And you were just like, whoa, you were like, I want to tattoo that.
Yeah.
And so I tattooed that Leaf Man probably 4 or 5 times, and I never got to look like the Flash, but you know, I tried. I really did. And then I remember like Clean Rock 1, he came out with his set, and it was just like, whoa, you can make chrome look like that and fire.
Yeah.
And it was all like hot rotted out and dimensional.
Yeah.
But yeah, none of my chrome or fire ever looked like that. You know?
Yeah, yeah.
And so, and then like I started looking at like Aaron Kane and Guy Etchison, and like, you know, I try to tattoo that, but man, that's so site specific.
Dude,
like,
it's
still today only a handful of people can make that look right.
I agree with you completely, man.
Yeah, it's like if you're not immerging yourself into that style, then don't even play with it.
It's a lot of studying for sure.
It's a lot of studying, the technique.
I had the mind-blowing experience of being able to tattoo them, and then being able to see it being done even is still kind of like, okay, I'm still trying to break it apart. You know what I mean? So yeah, it's still, it's daunting for sure, dude. So okay, so you tried out a lot of those different styles, and you didn't quite feel comfortable with the end product then?
Yeah, I just think at that time, like, it was like I was always like, my liner isn't, I feel like my lines aren't looking right yet, or like this machine isn't putting it in how I want, or these needles. So at the time we were all making our own needles, you know, we were you know, sterilizing tubes. There was, the disposable thing wasn't a thing yet.
Yeah.
So we were always experimenting with like what needles we're going to buy and how we're going to group them, and like how we're going to spread them. You know, you're going to use a razor blade, you're going to use hemostats to get those effects.
Yeah.
But I think all in all, I just, at that time, you know, like I'm probably 20 at this age. And it's just like, it's not I'm not making, I can't make that image look like that yet.
Yeah.
And I can't get it to heal like that yet.
Right. Right. So
So
it's just like it's a battle with the medium that we're in, right?
Yeah.
Because like there's the human condition or the human interaction, like as far as the person taking care of the tattoo, the way you apply the tattoo, and then the art itself.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
because and I think too, like I started with the Huck Spalding machines, then I went to Time Machine, you know,
Mhm.
and I
So
bought
it was
like
Donnie
that
Fowler, wasn't it?
yeah, Donnie Fowler, and I bought like that completely adjustable powder coated,
Yeah.
you know, liner,
Yeah.
and
That
then
just shook apart the whole time.
yeah, and then I switched over to Mickey Sharps.
Yeah.
And then when I started using Mickey Sharps, I had the telephone dial and what was the other one called?
Micro dial.
Yeah, the micro dial and the
Yeah.
telephone. So I ordered those and I got those. That kind of changed things. And then like I started using Cesferi machines.
Mhm.
And that really seemed like those machines I was able to get the ink to really go in.
Yeah.
So
It seemed a little more saturated and healing better and stuff.
Yeah.
Like that. Yeah.
So, and once I started doing that and started working with you and Chris and being around out of the biker scene of it, you know, this is 2001. So now I'm at year 4 of tattooing.
Mhm.
And then we were just tattooing all the time nonstop.
Yeah. We tattooed all the time.
Yeah, we were just in that little shop
Yep.
all day long.
All day long.
You know, we sometimes were there till 2 a.m. tattooing.
Yep.
So, you know, it was just, I think the repetition is what started making it easier.
Okay.
Like just doing it every day.
Yeah. Like the practice and the method and the practice.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I remember when I first met you, you had like a knockoff Mickey Sharps machine, and then I showed
Yeah.
you the real one. I was
Yeah,
like,
yeah.
check this one
I
out.
remember that. It was the same thing for me too. Like
Yeah.
you could find things in certain catalogs or like certain magazines. That was it, dude. You know what
Yeah.
I mean, like, and I remember when I was just talking about Icon earlier. You know,
Oh, yeah, I remember
stumbling
that.
into Icon, and be like, what is this? You
Yeah.
know? But yeah, that's awesome, man. So you've gone through a couple different changes in your style too, and like for the past how many years now would you say that you've been working primarily in Japanese style tattooing?
So as I started to transition, like I would say like before I get into like where I'm at now, I would say like as things progressed, you know, like I remember like going through a huge like tribal time period and just doing huge tribal sleeves on people. Like that movie Dust Till Dawn came out and everyone wanted to look like George Clooney. Man, I must have did
Yeah.
30 sleeves,
Yeah.
you know?
Yeah.
And I started doing so much where I was just packing in black all day. Like I really learned how to put in ink from doing that.
Hmm.
And then I started switching over to like just like kind of traditional Americana tattooing. And I was like, okay, I can get these to look really solid. And then when I was 27, I went and I got a dragon sleeve by Jeff Zuck, because I started looking at Jeff Zuck's work and I was like, man, I really like this guy's style and the way it looks. And so I went and got a full sleeve by him in 2 months.
Yeah.
And I was like, all right, I think I want to do Japanese.
Yeah.
And then I started dabbling with it and like, you know, practically like giving it away to my friends. Like, dude, let me do a Hanyu mask on you. Let me do, you know, a dragon on you. Let me do a koi fish on you. And then I did that for a few years. And then I flew out to New York and got a sleeve from Mike Rubendahl. And then when I met Mike and I saw like his work ethic and how he did what he was doing and how he became what he became. And he was like, man, he was like, all you gotta do is just keep buying all the books and tattoo all day and it'll happen. And I was like, man, it just must be so cool to tattoo dragons every day. And I remember him telling me, he's like, man, be careful what you ask for.
Yeah.
And now it's like, yeah, it's every day. Dragons, sleeves, you
Yeah.
know, back pieces.
Yeah.
And it's just nonstop. And the work, it's just every day. Like I don't even have to leave here if I don't want to.
Yeah. Yeah.
So I'm getting to the point now where I need to start creating like some boundaries though, because I'm really overworking myself.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. Like, but the nice thing is that we've switched over to like these new machines, the rotary style pens. And it's like my hand doesn't hurt anymore.
Yeah. Yeah. That's a big one.
Like one thing that was holding me back from tattooing nonstop was those coils
Mhm.
and just holding that all day. Like I remember like putting my arm down on the, you know, the rest in my car and it burned because I had like, you know, tennis elbows shooting through.
Yeah. Right.
So these new machines really, like I could just sit here all day,
Yeah.
you know, as long as I still like, get up and swim and stretch out in the morning.
Yeah, I've talked about that a couple of times. I actually interviewed Zach
Yeah.
on here a couple of times too. You know what I mean? So I talk to a lot of people about that too. It's like important as artists, the sedentary life that we can live
Yeah.
to maintain that kind of lifestyle as well.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I would say definitely over the last 8.5 months of opening the shop again and everyone kind of like coming back in and spending the time like tattooing at the same time while resetting up a business, and then we have a lovely brewery next door.
Mhm.
And I think I put on 30 pounds. And I was just like, I'm like at the point now where I'm like, man, I need to get back to like really taking care of myself
Yeah.
and making that time for me again. So it's just, I got to transition back to that.
So it's interesting that you brought that up because like it's one of those things where we are in a profession, unless you're working for a shop that's very stringent about certain times and things like that, where we can kind of make our own schedule.
Yeah.
We kind of live our own lifestyle and stuff like that too.
For sure.
Like I think you and I have both gone through a couple different phases of our life and stuff like that, where it's like, okay, we had less responsibilities at one point in time.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And
Yeah.
like we had to kind of buckle down a little bit more too.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Would you say that life kind of influenced a lot of this process that you have now where you're working so much? Or would you say that it's just a personal choice that you do, like as far as what we're talking about, like with food and like with work and stuff like that?
I think with tattooing, I've just gotten almost addicted to producing.
Mm-hmm.
Like I've just turned myself into like, I'm going to create this much work.
So you have an idea of a body of work that you're looking for. And that kind of goes hand in hand with this style of tattooing, wouldn't you say? Like
I would definitely
like a collection of suits is what you're looking for.
Yeah, I just want to. I've noticed like the harder I've worked over the years, more people are seeing it. Like, I put it on Instagram, I put it on Facebook, and I have people that follow it for a couple of years, and they're like, I want to get my whole back done by you, or I want to get a whole leg by you, or sleeves by you.
Mm-hmm.
And they're just like, I watch it, and like that was this one piece, and like every time I hear that, I'm like, man, it's just like I got to keep producing.
Yeah.
And it's like, but I definitely want to switch over. I'll still do other styles for people.
Mm-hmm.
Like they're like, man, you tattoo my aunt and she really loves your work. She told me to get tattooed by you. So I still feel bad about being like, no, man, I don't want to do your a tree tattoo or something,
Right.
How about a dragon?
Right.
Or like a mom brings her kid in and she's like, I love your work and my son wants a tattoo. And then, and then I wind up doing like this little tattoo that's like something that I wouldn't typically do.
Mm-hmm.
But, it's refreshing sometimes to switch it up. But I think I really want to just hone in on just doing Japanese style tattoos.
Yeah.
And only doing that. And I want to try to like only work 5 days a week.
Yeah.
So I want to get to that point. But lately I've just been like, I don't know, just really overly like letting people kind of have their way with me, kind of.
Yeah.
Like, so I'm working on my days off and I'm, it's just like, I'm not taking days off.
That's not, I mean, that can lend to a burnt out kind of mentality, don't you think?
Yeah, I think so. But like the further that I start looking at like a lot of these Japanese like tattooers, like the real deal ones and like the body of work that these guys have, they don't stop.
Right.
Their work ethic is insane.
Yeah.
They're like, and I'm just like, how do you get there?
Yeah.
I'm like, how? And it's just like, if you can make yourself work, 7 days a week, 6 to 7 hours a day, well, then you could make yourself work 9 hours a day.
Mm-hmm.
And I think a lot of it for me was when I started doing like triathlons, like back when I got into the Ironman thing.
Okay.
It was like, okay, you want me to run 5 miles. And at the time it was like, I couldn't even imagine it.
Yeah.
And then I was like, okay, I got to 5 miles. And then I'm like, okay, well, let's get to 8 miles. Wow. And then next thing you know, you're at 20 miles. Next thing you know, you're running marathons.
Yeah.
And then you're like, now I got to ride my bike 100 miles, and then you're like, I got to swim 5 miles.
Yeah.
Like I wound up like taking something away from like the Ironman training world. Like that just kind of like mentally changed my idea about what's difficult.
Yeah, sure.
And it was just like right now, like when you think about like that race, it's like, it's a 2.4 mile swim, with 2,000 people on top of you.
Oh, man.
It's a 112-mile bike ride,
Yeah,
and then it's a 26.2-mile run.
Yeah.
Like, to the average person, that's insane.
it is.
But like, it's like if you get up every morning at 4 a.m. and you train for 3 hours, it's
Mhm.
like, do that for a year and you can do it.
Yeah, that makes sense. So,
So,
you're saying the same thing with
The
tattooing.
same thing with tattooing. It's like a 6 to 8 hour tattoo session doesn't bother me anymore.
Mhm.
It's like I could sit there.
Yeah.
You know.
Yeah,
So it's just like,
that makes sense. I could see where you're coming from with that, and I talk a lot about that too, man. It's like we have to take adaptations from our life and apply them, because it's like it's almost like a hand-in-hand kind of thing. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? Like our work ethic, the things that we find interest in, and the way that we apply both to each other.
yeah.
Yeah, I think that's awesome, dude.
So yeah, I'm just I guess I'm like trying to find my way back to, like, I don't know, I guess like I've done all these crazy things and gone back and forth, always kept like tattooing in my life. And then, like, you know, like what we were talking about, like the tragedy and stuff, you know, like I lost my brother and my dad, my stepfather who raised me, the one that took me to Gary and everything. And like that was like 4.5, 5 years ago. So like you're like reestablishing yourself after all that as well. And I think during that time period, it was like, whether I'm going to bury myself in alcohol or I'm going to bury myself in work.
Yeah.
And I buried myself in work.
It's awesome.
So it was just, you know, if I don't have that downtime to think about that stuff, you just don't have to think about it. You can just grind your whole life away if you want.
So you found an outlet for
Yeah.
yourself.
And it was rather, if I was going to go the drug and alcohol route, I probably would have destroyed myself inevitably.
Yeah, absolutely.
You know, and I did do the alcohol thing for a little while and definitely got out of Iron Man shape. And like, I don't know, I feel like the fog from all of that stuff is finally starting to go away. And it's like, okay, I got my tattooing kind of dialed in. Now it's time to get my body and mind dialed back in again. So I don't know, I'm just like rediscovering, I guess, myself again for like the 20th time. You
Yeah.
know?
Yeah.
But that's the great thing about being part of this tattoo world. You know, we don't work in a cube or an office where
Right.
we have somebody telling us what to do. We tell
Right.
ourselves what to do.
Yep.
And like the thing about the shop, you know, using the word like free range artist, you know, you go do what you want, you know, nobody's telling you, like, if you want to tattoo and be here, then tattoo and be here.
Right.
So, but the cool thing about it is it's awesome when everyone's here and creating together. Like that energy is priceless, you know, and I like that vibe of everyone creating and like pushing together.
Yeah.
Because it like you feed off that energy and everyone's like, oh man, he's throwing down on that, he's doing that, you know. It's like kind of, it's not a competition, but it definitely, everyone's like, okay, got to bump it up a little bit.
Yeah, for sure.
So, and I like that competitive edge to it.
Yeah, it pushes you.
Yeah.
Yeah, or you see somebody else's work and you're like, oh man, that's killer. I want to do something
Yeah.
like that.
And lately I've honestly been spending almost like $2,000 a month on Japanese tattoo books.
Yeah, I just got a couple more in the mail
Yeah.
today, yeah.
And it's insane. Like the more of the books you have and the more variations of the style, you're like, where do I want to, like, I don't want to be like a new school Japanese tattooer. I don't want to be so much looking like a King's Avenue style tattoo. And I don't want it to be like a straight classic traditional. So you're like, I don't know, you're just trying to discover like, how big do I want my clouds? What style of water do I want to do?
Yeah.
And it's just like, every time you get a book, it's like, you're like, man, I didn't think about it that way. Or maybe I'm going to try it this way today.
Yeah. I mean, that makes complete sense. And, you know, and it's interesting that you say that, because a lot of people would say that when they see traditional Americana, there's like a certain way that it should be done, or like Japanese tattooing is the same thing. Right?
Yeah.
Like you can add your own flair to it, is what you're saying. You can add your own voice to it and stuff like that. And I think that's what you're trying to say. You're trying to accomplish. Is like,
Yeah.
where does
but
my voice come into it?
But I don't want to take it too far out of its original context either. You know, like I think my end goal would for it to be like, was that made by an American or was that made by a Japanese guy?
Yeah, I got
Like
you.
right now, if you were to look at my stuff, you'd be like, an American guy made that.
Yeah.
You're like, that's definitely a white boy playing with it.
Yeah.
You know, but in certain senses, I've definitely done some where it was like, no, that's pretty true to its nature. You know?
Yeah. Yeah.
You know, and that's where like I start playing with like the old like Osen books and stuff like that, you know, which like are from the Horiyoshi family collection. And it's just like, it's so simple, but it's not. You know, I always want to overcomplicate it.
Yeah.
And it's just like when you do it and you leave it that simple, you're like, man, that's perfect.
Yeah.
Like, so I don't know, it's like, you know, we have like this high speed like thought of like it's supposed to kind of look this way or all these like details. It's like, nah, maybe just make it simple.
Yeah.
So I don't know. I struggle with that daily.
I mean, I think it's something that we all struggle with, especially with the overload of information, like on social media sometimes.
Yeah.
Like sometimes I have to literally step away because I will be following some people. I'm like, man, why am I not tattooing like this? You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Or like, why can't I do these kinds of things? And I end up finding that it influences me so heavily that I start kind of kicking myself in the ass. Like,
Yeah.
I'm like, oh man, I'm not good enough. I'm not good enough. I'm not good enough. But like in reality, you're putting in the work, you're putting in the ethic, you know what I mean? You're putting you're all into it. So that's the basis for what you have to rely on whenever that happens for me.
Yeah.
Is that like, I'm still doing work, I'm still studying, you know what I mean? I'm still drawing as much as I can. I'm still painting as much as I can. So I think that's important to remember that as well. But yeah, that's awesome to hear you say that, because like I've always thought that with the books and stuff like that, it'd be much easier to just kind of have some resource and stuff like
Yeah.
that and have that fallback. But it's not even a fallback then.
Yeah.
Because you're still studying and you're still using the amount of that as an influence.
Yeah.
Okay, that's awesome.
Yeah. Like I definitely pull a lot of my material from books, like especially subject matter, you know, and then backgrounds. I typically draw a lot of that
Yeah.
on with Sharpie.
Yeah.
You know, when I got tattooed by Mike Rubendahl, when I got tattooed by Jeff Zuck, he had a lot of the dragon laid out, and then he drew on the whole background. And he didn't even draw the scales on the dragon. He just free-handed tattooed
Wow.
all the scales.
Yeah.
And I was just like, are you kidding me right now?
Yeah. Yeah.
And then
Yeah.
and
I
then
have
Mike,
to say that in my opinion, like your Jeff Zuck sleeve is one of my favorite tattoos you have for sure.
yeah,
Yeah.
it's amazing how well it's held up.
Yeah. Yeah. It's solid.
But like Jeff, he's kind of a weird, like just like kind of tattoo genius almost. Like,
Yeah.
you know, he was making his own ink,
Yeah.
making his own machines,
Mhm.
making his own needles.
Mhm.
You know, so he was like very involved in the entire process
Yeah. From
of a
beginning to
tattoo.
end. Right.
Yeah. And he actually gave me the 4 drawings he did for my arm.
Oh, awesome.
And I was just like, I'm like, this guy is just a beast when it comes to this.
That's awesome, man.
Yeah. And then with Mike Rubendahl, like his dragon stencil had like all the dragon body laid out, all the scales perfectly on there. But, you know, in the way that he drew his backgrounds, definitely like he drew all that on. But I think I was standing there for 2.5 hours while he drew all that on.
Right.
But, you know, and it's just interesting to take that experience from him. And I asked him, I was like, so would you ever try to draw your subject matters on? He's like, absolutely not. He's like, I don't have that sort of time to
Yeah.
sit there and draw a tiger on or
Right.
draw a dragon on. He's like, I always just put the subject matter on and then draw the background.
Yeah.
So I always kind of modeled that idea and like how I approach it.
Okay.
So, but like, you know, sometimes it's interesting. Like sometimes I've like gone through like when I was like struggling with like, how do I want a cloud pattern to look?
Mm-hmm.
And I blow up a cloud pattern out of a Japanese book and trace it and be like, I'm like, what am I missing? Like, let's see what it looks like on them.
Yeah.
And I was like, okay. And then I would trace it, blow it up, make a stencil and put the cloud pattern on.
Yeah.
And then next time I'd try to draw that,
Yeah. Yeah.
you know, and it was just like,
I got you.
it was almost like trying to get like the memory from like the tracing
Yeah.
to, you know, change like
Yeah.
how I would like correct what I thought was wrong.
I hear that a lot with a lot of different styles of tattooing. Like a lot of the times it's the bulk shapes that you apply with a stencil and the rest of it's drawn on for
Yeah.
sure. And I remember hearing an interview, I can't remember which artist it was, but they were heavily influenced by the Japanese style as well. And he said early on when he first started doing it, everything had to be on the stencil.
Yeah.
Every little wave, every little, you know,
Yeah.
cloud and stuff like that, every little leaf on like the cherry blossoms.
I think that was a Chris O'Donnell.
Is that what it was?
It was
Yeah,
because
yeah.
he talked about that.
Yeah, yeah, exactly.
It was
So-
at one of his earlier interviews.
well, it seems like it would fit a little bit more, you know what I mean? Because the background a lot of times tends to take on the overall like aesthetic of the shape of the sleeve, right?
Yeah.
Like, because it's very unique to the Japanese style where it fits the body pretty tailored.
Oh yeah.
It's very tailored to the person individually, and it's not always going to fit the same on everybody.
No.
Yeah.
Yeah,
So-
you pretty much like if you're going to be successful at it, you for sure, if you're not going to draw the subject matter on, you're going to have to draw the backgrounds on.
Right.
Like I don't think that there's a way around
No,
that
it
really.
doesn't seem like that. Yeah.
So
So that's an experience thing for you as well, then.
yeah, like and I like just how many times I've changed the way I draw water.
Yeah. Right.
Like
Yeah,
you know what I mean?
I've seen a lot of variations from you. a lot of iterations of that style and stuff like that. So it's been pretty awesome to see that evolve.
Yeah, now it's like, and like before I remember like trying to make the water like swirl and like have layers to it. Now it's like, how can I make it look really simple? You know, and put like strong ISO bars with it.
Yeah.
So
So somebody that's coming into the Japanese style of tattooing, like as far as your top 5 references, like as far as your inspirations, what do you think that you could list the top 5 for anybody listening?
well, you know, we could start with my beginning. Like, I would definitely say like Horiyoshi the third.
Oh,
you
yeah,
know,
hands
but
down.
that's like, you know, people that, you know, don't even know about tattooing know who he is. You know,
Yeah.
just from all the TV footage and
Yeah.
everything. You know, like a lot of it that got me like really rolling from day one. Like, you know, I always remember watching like Grimy and like his twist on it.
Oh yeah, man, he's amazing.
Yeah. And then like I bought his books, and then like just to flip through his whole portfolio.
Mhm.
And I was like, this is crazy. Like the dude can do like 10 styles.
Yeah.
But like when he wants to do like a classic Japanese piece, he can.
Right.
I think a lot of the earlier woodblock stuff, you know, I think is really cool.
Okay.
But then like I look at some of that, and some of it's really detailed, and I'm like, I don't know if like a Kaiosai, you know, underwater dragon, and like I've seen people tattoo it, but I'm like, I couldn't imagine trying to tattoo that. And then I like the stuff going on like with Ichibei over at Three Tides. Like,
Yeah.
big fan of his stuff. Those Osen books definitely changed the way that I look at it. You know, like Mike Rubendahl, I've followed him and Chris O'Donnell for the last like, I don't know, 20 years, seeing what they do. You know, I was always really blown away by Philip Liu, but I wouldn't tattoo. Like I wouldn't try to like replicate like a Philip Liu style
No,
piece.
definitely not.
Like I don't like, I like this Swiss style influence, you know, like, or another guy is Henning, you know, Henning Jorgensen.
Man,
like
that guy's
he
amazing.
definitely,
His stuff is incredible.
and you could see like the influence that he's had on like, you know, like Mike and all them, you know, because he was around, you know, he spent some time around them,
Mhm.
you know. But I don't know, it's crazy because every time I think that like those people were the most amazing, I just go into my Instagram search feed and I find 10 other artists that I'm like, whoa. You know, so it's just like every day's information overload.
Yeah.
And lately I've been like trying to research like more of the Japanese style rotaries versus the pen,
Oh yeah.
because like I see like these huge like just saturations of gray that are like flawless.
Mhm.
They're absolutely flawless.
Mhm.
I'm like, how do you even do that? Like, how do you get it to look like that? How do you get a whole back piece that flawlessly clean?
Yeah.
And like I see all these guys using like these Japanese rotaries.
Yeah.
Like they don't even really tell you what they're using. There's no real information. So now I'm like, that's my next quest. I'm researching that information.
Yeah. I think that was one of the coolest things that I'd heard. You know, well, there's 2 things now. One of them is the fact that like Horiyoshi, for example, you know what I mean? He has no signage for his shop at all.
Yeah.
You know, but the man's been tattooing for 2 lifetimes now.
Yep.
You know what I mean? And it's incredible to think about that. So there's a lot of information out there that they still hold true to the chest, I think, sometimes.
Yeah. I think that there is.
Yeah. And then there's also the fact that like, I think when we were talking, you had mentioned that you heard that a lot of the Japanese tattooers that do the bodysuits, they'll tattoo people for a couple of hours every day, or
Yeah.
30 or 40 minutes each
Yeah,
day.
they definitely have it. It's not a month in between for sure.
Yeah, yeah.
You know, it's
Yeah.
you get
And it's not like 6 hours a day either. It's like,
Yeah.
you know, 30, 40 minutes at a time.
Yep.
But at the speed that they tattoo and the efficiency that they tattoo, it's incredible too.
Yeah.
So the amount of stuff that you can get done in that short amount of time is it's wild.
Yeah, it's even wild watching like, you know, the Tabori
Yes,
tattoo artist,
Yeah.
you know, like Horitomo.
Yep.
Like,
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
it's like he could have a machine or, you know, Tabori, and he
Yeah.
still crushes it.
Flying it.
And
Yeah.
his body of work is huge.
Yeah.
You know, and it's when I see stuff like that, you know, it inspires me to keep pushing and working longer, harder hours. But instead of like, I think for me, what it's going to wind up being is instead of like taking on like a quarter sleeve or a half sleeve, it's going to have to be more like, okay, we're going to do the whole entire, you know, backside. Like start taking on like those projects and making those a top priority and pumping out enough of that where people are like, okay, that's all he's really doing. You know, there's an artist, Greg Lachon.
Yeah.
Yeah. Like I've been following his stuff. It's just like, I'm seeing more bigger work all the time. And I'm like, man, I need to get tattooed by him.
Yeah.
You know, like it's how I use social media, you know,
Yeah.
like I've been following him. I'm like, man, that guy, he's got it going on.
Yeah. He's,
You know?
he's an amazing artist.
Yeah. And he just, it's like, so like when I think about like me saying like I'm tattooing so much and then I look at what he does in a week, I'm like, man, I'm slacking.
Yeah.
I'm not working enough.
Yeah.
So
I guess there's that fine space where you have to find the balance for yourself, then, isn't there?
yeah. And I think that there's other ways that we can make it more efficient, or you can get faster at it. You know, maybe the pen isn't, you know,
Right.
the route, you know. Maybe.
I think that's what I missed just now, is that's what you're saying, is that like there's some utilities that you can apply in order to like accomplish the amount of work that you're trying to do in a shorter amount of time.
Yeah, I definitely think that there's other ways to create those large bodies.
Gotcha.
You know, I was for a little bit, I was having Jeff Ersick build my machines, and I was asking him like, what disposables and stuff does he use? And he goes, dude, we're still all, you know, we're still stainless steel tubes and still make our own needles, you know. And he was like, we don't, like, they're all still doing it like how they've been doing it. And he was like, some of us ventured off, and then we were like, nope, this is the way.
Yeah. Yeah.
So
I can appreciate that. I think we all can.
yeah.
But, yeah. All right, cool. So if you want, man, why don't we holler at everybody and tell them how to get a hold of you on Instagram and stuff like that?
Yeah, if you're interested and you want to see any of my work, just check out Steve McClintock on Instagram, or go to Artcore Tattoo on Instagram. You can find me on there. And you know, it's fun chatting with everybody today, and it's kind of interesting. My first, like, I'm looking at the screen and that screen, and I see myself like in this time lapse down here in real life. It's weird because you're like watching two of you.
It takes a little bit to get used
Yeah,
to
it does.
for
It was
sure.
kind of playing with my eyes a little bit.
Yeah.
And I was like, I couldn't look at it. I was like
Yeah.
looking away from it. You know?
Well, and then you notice that some of the technical difficulties that we have too. You know what
Yeah.
I mean, like that pops up as well, and it kind of throws you for a curve. Like I was getting all sweaty and stuff for a second. I don't know about you, but I was like,
Yeah.
oh my God. But yeah, no, it's awesome. This is actually episode 48.
Oh, okay.
It's awesome to be able to have you on here, man.
Made it to 48.
Yeah, for sure, dude. But let's see, is anybody else in here? Medusa, why don't you give us a holler too?
Hi, I am Medusa. I can be found on Instagram at Medusa Slays with 3 S's at the end, or medusaslays.com.
Killer. Thanks for joining us today. Thanks for hanging out while we were talking.
Yeah, thanks. This has been really awesome.
Cool, man. Well, with that being said, thank you guys for joining in today, and we will catch you next week. Feel free to contact Steve or myself anytime you want to. Hit us up, and we'll talk to you soon.
All right.